Legislation is important to public administration in the Bahamas. These include the Constitution, the Public Service Act, the Public Service Commission's regulations, the Employment Act, the Individual Ministries Act or Acts. I wish to point out that General Orders is not a piece of legislation. It is a policy document emanating from the Constitution, the Public Service Act, and the Public Service Commission regulations. What is the Constitution? It is a symbol of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas' move from dependence to independence in the management of its affairs. Some people call it the birth certificate of nationhood. It is the only piece of legislation that is divided into sections called articles. Article 1 says that we are a sovereign democratic state. Article 2 states that the Constitution is the supreme law. Any law that is inconsistent with it shall be void. What is the function of the Constitution? Basically, it balances the rights of individuals versus those of society as a whole in whose interests the government operates. Now, for example, you would have remembered COVID-19. In COVID-19, when the current administration came in, they opened the country and they wondered, how was that possible? Well, for example, if herd immunity did not take place, that is, we didn't have sufficient people immunized to open up the country, the Prime Minister could have contacted the Provost Marshal, who is the Commissioner of Police, and say to the Provost Marshal that the Ministry of Health has informed him, for example, that they need an additional 30,000 people to be vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccine. What will happen? The Commissioner of Police, along with all the other uniform branches, could go and identify 30,000 people throughout the Bahamas and compel them to be able to be vaccinated. That is when the individual rights is trumped by the rights of society as a whole, because that is what the government is focused on. Let's do a quick overview of the various articles of the Constitution. Articles 3 through 14 speak to citizenship. It tells you how you become a citizen. A lot of people don't understand the two most important ways, or the two most important documents that say we are citizens are when you are issued a passport, and unfortunately, when you're issued a voter's card. Those persons who have carriage of issuing passports and voter's cards must be very serious about the jobs that they do to make sure that we don't give people who are not entitled to citizenship documents that say that they are. Articles 15 through 27 speak to the protection of individuals' fundamental rights and freedom. It's not just for Bahamians, but for anyone within the boundaries of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Article 28 provides that if you feel that any of your rights or protection provided under Articles 16 through 27 have been violated, you may apply to the Supreme Court for redress. And ultimately, you may go as far as the Privy Council. And the Privy Council are the advisors to the King. Article 32 establishes the office of the Governor General, His Majesty's representative. The Governor General has wide-ranging powers under the Constitution. That is, making decisions, read the promotion of civil servants. Article 38 establishes the Parliament, which comprise the King, represented by the Governor General, the Senate, which is the upper house, and the House of Assembly, which is the lower house. Remember, the Bahamas follows the Westminster form of government. So our Senate would have been the House of Lords, and our House of Assembly would have been what was the House of Commons. Article 68 identifies the division of the Bahamas into constituencies for election purposes. Article 71 advises that the executive power is vested in the king and is exercised by the governor general. Article 72 speaks about the cabinet with general direction and control of the government. Therefore, cabinet is the policy-making agent. Article 93 establishes the courts, the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, and the right to appeal to the Privy Council. Constitutional authority of the public service. Article 107 establishes the Public Service Commission to oversee the civil service and advises the Governor General on matters re-appointments, confirmation and appointment, promotions, discipline, and termination. Article 108 states that the Governor General has the power to appoint, remove, and discipline civil servants. Article 109 speaks to the appointment of permanent secretaries and certain other public officers. Article 110 advises that the Governor General may delegate the authority vested in him by Article 108 in cases other than heads of department, and that is called the Delegation of Authority Act. Article 113 speaks to the appointment and removal of the secretary to the cabinet, and that person is referred to as the S to C. Most important for public officers is Article 114. It establishes the Public Service Board of Appeal, which hears matters re pension, dismissal, or penalties. Anytime you feel aggrieved of any action taken against you by the Public Service Commission, you have a right to appeal to the Public Service Board of Appeal. It is currently headed by a former permanent secretary, Mrs. Velma Thompson Curling.